Welcome to week 3 of Comp 1. So today we're going to go over your profile assignment that is due this Friday. I'm just going to go into some more details to make sure everyone's very clear on exactly what it is that we're looking for on that first essay. All this information is found on Moodle underneath your Worksheets tab or under your Resources tab. After we're going over the profile assignment, we're going to be going over some APA formatting rules. So let's get started. So as you can see over here on my projector, I've got Moodle pulled up. The way that I'm finding this information is I click on the Worksheets tab. And underneath the Worksheets tab, I'll scroll down to the profile assignment information. And once I have that information pulled up, you should be able to view the same thing at home. So let's go over it together. On the profile assignment, the first portion just gives you the basic information of what is a profile. So we've talked a little bit about a profile, and this goes on to explain into further detail. I'm not going to read all this off to you, I just want to read some highlights. But they refer to it as the magazines and newspapers that we often see are filled with profiles. Think of if you see a magazine with a famous person on it, and you go to the center of the magazine, there's usually a profile with their hobbies, things they like to do, things they don't like to do, their previous work, things that they're planning on doing in the future, etc. So you can do a profile on a person, a place, or an event in a similar fashion. Some profiles can be very extended and lengthy, whereas other profiles may be shorter. What we're doing is a 2 to 3 page profile, so you need to pick a subject that's appropriate for that size of paper. I also want to point out that in your assignment, I said specifically that you should try to find something in the community, because it's going to be easier if you can go there yourself or interview a person yourself, so that you don't have to worry about citations. And we'll get more into that when we're talking about APA formatting. But for this first assignment, you do not have to have citations. It's not required. So my advice is don't do them if you can avoid it. So back to the basic information under the profile assignment. It says that some profiles take us behind the scenes of familiar places, giving us a glimpse of their inner workings. So if you're deciding to do something like a state park or maybe a festival that goes on near you every year, that's what we're talking about in terms of taking someone to a familiar place, but then giving them a glimpse of the inner workings. How does everything actually come into play? Who's responsible for what activities are going on, and how do we come about those in those places? It says others introduce us to the exotic, peculiar hobbies or unusual professions, bizarre personalities, and then still others probe the social, political, and moral significance of our institutions. So it doesn't matter what you're doing as your profile. The important thing is that whatever it is you've chosen, you're going to go in depth and give us some information that the average reader would not know. So something else I want to point out is that it talks about in the second paragraph how profiles share many features of an autobiography, such as narrative, anecdote, description, and dialogue. Meaning, feel free to tell stories about people or events or places. That would be under the narrative. Or anecdotes, which is kind of narrative but also gives us a lesson. And then description, it's very important that you're going to use lots of description. If we are reading your profile, we need to feel like we can see what it is you're talking about right in front of us. And dialogue, in terms of having a conversation with your reader about what's important with this specific subject, what's different about this specific subject, and what makes it unique enough for people to want to go there or meet that person or see that event in person? Why is this specific subject you've chosen so significant? It says, think of profiles as a special kind of research project in that third paragraph. And what they're talking about here is profiles always involve visits, meeting with a person or going to a place. Again, that's one reason I wanted you guys to pick something in the community so that it would be easily accessible for you. You're going to take notes from observing and interviews, and maybe pick up any kind of reading materials that are at that specific site. And if you have to do some outside research through the internet or through the library, make sure you check with me on how exactly you're going to cite that information so that you don't get accused of plagiarism. So at the bottom of the first page on this profile assignment worksheet, it goes over a list of things that we're wanting to see in every profile. And these are bullet points. I'm not going to read them all off to you, but make sure that you go through those bullet points if you're still a little confused about what exactly am I writing in this profile. The next page talks about purpose and audience. So we always want to think about what is our purpose and who is our audience when we're writing, not just a profile, but anything. Always think about who is the reader, and the answer should not be Miss Dixon. And think about, why am I writing? And the answer shouldn't be because Miss Dixon told me to. Your reader is, in real life, who would be reading this material, and for what reason would they be reading it? It's important that you think about your purpose and audience before tackling any writing assignment. But let's talk specifically about profiles. Who are reading profiles, and why are they reading them? Well, in general, it tells us readers of profiles expect to be surprised by unusual subjects. That means someone who's reading a profile is wanting to get extra information that the normal average Joe wouldn't know, and they want to be surprised and shocked by that information. Part of that's going to come across with the actual information. Part of that's going to come across with the way that you deliver that information. It also says a profile writer has one further concern: to be sensitive to the reader's knowledge of a subject. If you do not think the average Joe would know something that you're talking about in your profile, then you need to explain that. Give a definition or explain how it works or what it is to the reader. And if there is any terminology used, words that are familiar within the concept of what you're talking about, but not familiar to most normal people on the street, then we would want to make sure that we're going over that terminology, those words specifically, and telling them what the definitions are. So, summary of basic features starts at the bottom of page 2 and actually goes all the way to the bottom of page 4. And what the summary of basic features is going to do is break down all of those bullet points and tell you exactly how you're expected to reach the expectations of the profile assignment. So, number 1, an intriguing, well-focused subject. Meaning you need to pick a person, place, or an event, activity that is going to meet all the needs of your profile assignment. A vivid presentation for number 2, meaning we need lots of descriptive terms, right? Use all those sensory imagery that you can think of: look, smell, taste, feel in some instances. Number 3, a dominant impression, meaning when I read this profile, I should walk away remembering the profile because it made a dominant impression on me as the reader. Number 4, engaging and informative plan. Make sure that your reader is engaged as well as informed. You don't want to come off as encyclopedic, meaning you're just spouting information off like you're a robot without any kind of excitement for the reader. You need to make sure it's engaging. Make sure that the reader is wanting to read the profile because it's that exciting to learn about this new information. And then at the bottom of page 4, it goes over topics for profiles. And it will go into each of these topics with some specific ideas about how to meet that. So people, places, and activities are listed there with some bullet points underneath them, giving you some specific ideas on how exactly you are to choose your person, your place, or your activity, whatever it is you've decided you want to write on. So make sure you go through this profile assignment thoroughly and you've read it fully so that you understand exactly what's expected on this first essay. So I'm going to exit out of the profile assignment, and now I'm scrolling up and I'm looking for that resources tab, and I'm going to click on that. Underneath resources, you'll see one of your links that say OWL Purdue APA Style Guide. Now the reason I've listed this is because it is a critical resource for us to use so that we can find exactly how we're supposed to format our APA paper and how to do those important citations, okay? So your first quiz is going to be over the writing process that we covered last week and also the profile assignment that we just went over. Quickly looking in the quizzes tab, I'm sorry, it's not your first quiz, your second quiz. We're gonna look at quiz 2 to see when quiz 2 is available. And it looks like it is available from Tuesday of this week until Friday at midnight. So you have until Friday at midnight to complete your quiz. And remember, it's over the writing process and the profile assignment. So you might want to print out those worksheets before you start working on the quiz so that you have them right there in front of you, or maybe pull up a couple of tabs on your computer so that you can view them at the same time that you're going through the quiz. Remember that quizzes are open book, open notes, and not timed. So going back to resources, the OWL Purdue APA Style Guide, that will be part of our third quiz, which will cover your APA formatting. So let's go ahead and click on this link. The first thing and the most important thing I want to remind you students is that it is not important that you remember or memorize how to do every single thing that we're going to see on our APA OWL guidelines. What's important is that you remember how to access it. Because APA, MLA, Chicago Style, these are all different ways that you format your paper when writing academically or professionally. And memorizing all that information and those rules is not going to be helpful, since every single one of those style guides will update every few years. I've seen probably 4 or 5 different versions of APA and the same amount for MLA during my time as a writer. So do not memorize all the rules, memorize where to find the rules, because as long as you know where to find the rules, you can always access them. Now, this link takes you to Purdue University's online writing lab. That's why we call it OWL, O-W-L, OWL Purdue. And you can access this just by going to Google and typing in your Google search, OWL Purdue. Or you can access it through the link that I've provided. Once you get onto the Purdue University OWL website, you want to look for the APA Formatting and Style Guide. And when you click on that link, it's going to first bring up the general formatting rules. So I know that it's not very clear for you guys to be able to see it from back there. That's why I want you to make sure that you're following along with the video on a device where you can actually pull this website up yourself. So if you're looking at what I'm looking at, which means that you've went to the OWL Purdue APA Style Guide, then scroll down and look under General APA Guidelines. Okay, so this is going to tell us just some general rules about writing in APA. Kind of the first and most important things that we need to make sure we're doing with our paper. So it says your essay should be tight and double spaced, and it should be on a standard sized paper. All margins top, bottom, left, right, should be set at 1 inch. And for a student paper, which is what you're going to be writing, in your header, which should be at the top of every page, you should include just the page number. It also says for the font, what we would prefer is one of those that's listed in the bottom of the second paragraph. But for my class, I would ask that you are going to use 12-point Times New Roman font, okay? The next section talks about the major paper sections of an APA paper. So there are 4 major sections of an APA paper. You have your title page, your abstract, your main body, and your references. On the title page, it should contain the title of the paper, the author's name, the institutional affiliation, and then it should also include the course number and name, instructor name, and assignment due date. For your title, you want to write that in upper and lower case. What that means is we're going to capitalize the first word and any important word after that, but the rest of the letters in that word should be lowercase. Also, we want to make sure that we bold our title, but only our title. We don't want everything on the title page to be bold, just the title. It also says that beneath the title, that's where we write the author's name. That's the person who's writing the actual paper. So your name should be right underneath the title. Then you are going to write the affiliation, institutional affiliation, which is SEARK. So you can just write all caps SEARK. And then on the next line, that's where we are going to put the name of the class. So for this class, it will be all caps ENGL space 1313 space 2.02. Also, after the class name, that is where we are going to put the instructor's name. And for my name, you just need to put Professor Dixon. And underneath that, you're gonna put the date that it's due. Not the date that you're writing the paper, but the date that it's due. For this first paper, it would be November 4th, 2022. So, here is an example, if you scroll down a little bit, of an actual title page. And I'm going to write this out over here on the whiteboard so that you can see it a little bit better. So when we're formatting a title page, remember that we have to have a header in the upper right corner, and that's going to be just the page number. So the page number should start with 1 since it's going to be our first page. These little dots that I'm drawing represent the margin of the page. So when we're setting margins, what we mean by 1 inch margins is we don't want any type to appear in these margins except for the header up here in the very top right corner. We want to go down about 1/3 of the page to start our paper, and then we're going to put our title in bold. Then we're going to put the author's name. Then we're going to put the name of the institution, SEARK for this. Then we're going to put the name of the class, ENGL 1313 2.01. Then we're going to put the professor's name, Professor Dixon. Then we're going to put the date it's due, November 4, 2022. So that's how we're going to set up our first title page, okay? So remember, we were listing off the sections of the paper. The first section is the title page. The second section is our abstract. So let's scroll on down and see what it says about our abstract. So we always want to begin each section on a new page. So at the end of the title, information underneath my title page. So after the date, I'm gonna hit the enter key until I get to a new page. And at the very top of the new page, that's where I'm going to put the word abstract centered and bold. Then I am also going to hit enter one more time, shift my alignment to the left, and then I'm going to start writing my abstract paragraph. And my abstract paragraph, I should know, is not going to be indented, whereas all of the paragraphs in the body of my paper will be indented. For the abstract paragraph, what you need to know about abstracts are that they are the main ideas that are in your paper. In other words, what is your paper talking about? So we're just going to put a small little paragraph on the abstract page to give the reader an idea of what they're about to read. And an abstract should be at least 4 sentences. Any paragraph should be at least 4 sentences. So we're going to need, it can be longer, but we need at least 4 sentences for every paragraph. And on the abstract, it's a full paragraph, so we need at least 4 sentences or more. If I'm looking down here at their example of an abstract page, then what I notice is underneath that paragraph, they've indented 1/2 inch, and they wrote the word keywords italicized with a colon following it, and then a couple of words listed. What does that mean? Well, anytime you know your paper is going to be about information that maybe the reader's not familiar with, and therefore there will be terms that they need to be familiar with to understand the paper, that's where you would write those keywords. This indicates to the reader that these words need to be looked at closely and understood before you proceed with the paper. You probably won't need that for any of the papers in this class. However, think in terms of like if I'm taking a science class, then I might be writing a paper that's talking about some complicated processes that most people wouldn't normally know about, and I might need to give them some terms to look up before they read the paper. So I'm going to practice page 2 over here, right next to my practice title page. Now, again, once I set my header, it's going to stay the same. Every page, it will automatically update with a header that has my current page number. So number 2 should be in the top right corner of my abstract page. Abstract is going to be centered and bold on the first line. And in the second line, this is where I start writing my abstract. Remember, I should have at least 4 sentences. And if I'm going to write keywords, I need to indent that 1/2 inch and then write keywords in italicized, colon, and then I would write those afterwards. But again, doubt that you're going to need to do that. So, what's the third section of our paper? It's the body. So this is where you're going to actually start writing the body of your paper. What is the body? That's your essay, your intro, your body of your essay, and then your conclusion. So remember when I said every section gets a new page? At the end of the abstract, we need to hit enter again until we get to a new page. Now, once you've looked at their abstract example, you're going to see at the bottom of the abstract example, please see our sample APA paper resource to see an example of an APA paper. This is where we want to click if we want to see a sample of that paper. So I'm going to pull that up, and it says APA 7 student paper. I'm going to make that big so we can all look at it together. When I'm looking at this APA sample paper, one important thing to remember is that all that grayed out area, and those little bubbles that are tan with words inside them, that would not be on a normal paper. This is APA OWL's way of giving you information as to what you're looking at in the actual paper. So I already know how to do the title page. I know how to do the abstract. I'm gonna start immediately with the body. So when I go down to the body, the first thing I notice is my title is centered in bold on the very first line. So if I'm writing out the body of my essay, which is gonna start on page 3, right after the abstract, the title is gonna be centered and bold one more time. And remember, the title is going to be 12-point font, just like the rest of all the other words in your paper. You do not want to make any words bigger than the other words, according to APA standards. So once I've written my title in the center and I've made it bold, then I'm gonna hit enter and I'm gonna change the alignment over to the left. And I'm gonna immediately start my paper here. And this is where I'm going to begin my introduction, because that's the first part of an essay, right? But keep in mind that you do have to indent 1/2 of an inch for all of these paragraphs, okay? So I'm gonna start my introduction, and I write my introduction, then I'm gonna start my body. And I will do this for at least 2 pages. It should be noted that anytime I give an assignment and I say 2 to 3 pages, what I mean by 2 pages is all the way to the bottom of both pages. If you're short, I'm gonna take points out of your content because you're missing content from your paper. And remember, content is 50% of your grade for this essay. So, what is the other percentages? Well, we've got 50% for content, 30% for grammar, 10% for formatting, 10% for citations. This is for essay 1. For essay 2, it'll be 50% content, 20% grammar, 20% citations, and 10% formatting. And then for the last paper, the third essay, it's gonna be 50% content, 10% formatting, 10% grammar, 30% citations. Okay, so now I've got my first, second, and third sections of my APA paper. Title page, abstract, and the body. The fourth section you may not even need for this first paper, but I do want to talk about it. When formatting that fourth section, we want to make sure that we start it on a new page, just like we did with all of the other sections. I'm going to erase these 3 so that I can show you the formatting for section 4, which would be the references. So again, you may not need a reference page for this first paper if you're not using any outside sources. If you do an interview of someone and it's your own personal interview, you're not sampling someone else's interview information, then you do not have to use a reference on the reference page. You would make an in-text notation, but it would not go on the reference page. And it should be noted that for this first paper, under citations, under that 10% of your overall grade for the paper, what I'm looking for, if you do have to cite an outside source, I'm looking to make sure that 1, you've told me this isn't my work. I'm sampling someone else's work. And 2, you've attempted to try to cite it. It does not have to be perfect on this first paper for you to get the full amount of points. Right now, I just want you to acknowledge that when you're not using your own words, that you're using someone else's and trying to tell me whose words you're using. The second and third essay, I will grade much harder on the citations because we'll have an actual week where we talk about citations and how to do that properly. So, if I'm formatting my fourth section, the references, I start on a new page and I have my header up here which if we're doing it for this one, it's gonna be a minimum page 5 because I have to have title page 1, abstract 2. Body has to be made up of 2 pages, so that's 3 and 4. So my references would start at a minimum on page 5. Remember, references will be centered and bold at the top of your page. You're gonna hit enter, shift the alignment to the left, and this is where you're gonna start your actual reference list, okay? Keep in mind that a reference list is always going to be in alphabetical order based on the first word of the reference citation. Also, notice there's a weird indentation going on here, right? It's kind of the opposite of what we see in our body of our paper. Instead of indenting the first line and keeping all other lines of that paragraph to the left, we're doing the opposite. We're going to keep the first line to the left, and we're going to indent all of the following lines of that paragraph. This is called a hanging indentation, and I will show you how to do that on Microsoft Word in just a moment. So if I scroll to the very end of this sample APA paper that I'm looking at on Al Purdue, on page 17, our reference page starts. This is a long paper for this student. And here you can visually see what it's supposed to look like on the paper. I'm not going to go into exactly how to cite everything because that's not what we're worried about this week. Remember, I said as long as you attempt a citation and tell me that that work is not yours that you're sampling, then you'll get the full points for the citations. But I do want to point out, I'm going to switch over, I'm going to toggle over to the Purdue Owl website. I do want to point out on the left side of this Purdue Owl website, underneath the APA formatting and style guide, if you look on the left side, you will see all these links for how to cite in-text citations and how to cite your reference list citations. So what do I mean by in-text citation? What do I mean by reference list citation? Keep in mind that these go hand in hand. They have to work together. In-text citation is the citation you're going to perform when you're writing your paper, and then you say, oh, this is a good place for a quote. So I'm going to insert the quote here. That in-text citation lets me know as the reader that those words are not your own. You got them from someone else. And basically the information you're giving me is at the end of the quote, you're going to insert parentheses, and inside those parentheses you're going to give me the author's last name, the publication date, and the page numbers that we found it on. That's general information. Now, there are sometimes, let's say I'm quoting a YouTube video, then obviously the information going inside of these parentheses will be different. And that's what this link, or these two links are for, where it says in-text citation, the basics, and in-text citation, author/authors. If you click on one of those two, you should find information on how exactly you're supposed to perform every single possibility of an in-text citation. Meaning, whether it's from a book, whether it's from an article, whether it's from a website or a YouTube video or a tweet or a Twitter, whatever. You'll find the information underneath in-text citation, the basics, or in-text citation, author/authors. So what do I mean by reference list citation? Well, this is the references you're going to find on that very last page underneath your reference page. Okay, this is the fourth section. This is where we list those references. And you might be asking yourself, well, Ms. Dixon, what information goes here and why is it there? Now keep in mind, I told you about the in-text citation, right? In those parentheses, right after your quotations, to let me know, hey, I didn't say this, someone else said it, and this is their information on who said it. But that information doesn't give me any idea of where I could find that information. What that information does is it says, okay, you see the last name of this author right here, that first little bit of information I'm putting in this parentheses, go find that same name on the reference list. It might be first, second, third, doesn't matter, but it's gonna be on that reference list somewhere. So that's why I'm using that in-text citation to find the correct correlating reference list citation. And that reference list citation, when I look it up, it's gonna give me all the information I need on how exactly to find that specific book, article, website, YouTube video, tweet. It's gonna tell me exactly how to find that information that you quoted in your paper, how I can find the place that you found it. That way I can check it and make sure that you're doing everything correctly, that you've cited it correctly, that you're not misrepresenting the facts, that it's not plagiarism, right? And the whole reason behind this is not because we don't specifically trust you. When you're writing academically, we don't trust anybody. We assume that we have to double check everything to make sure everyone is on the up and up. That's why we can trust these academic papers and sources. And that's why you're learning how to write academically, so that you can get your thoughts and ideas and communicate effectively to all these other scholars around the world who may need some of the information you're sharing in your paper. So, again, back to the OWL Purdue website on the left underneath in-text citations, that's where I get all these other links that say reference list. So it will tell you how to write a correct citation on your reference page for all types of things. We've got basic rules, author/authors, articles and periodicals, books, other print sources, electronic sources, audio-visual media, other non-print sources. So if you click through every single one of those and can't figure out how to cite your specific source, get in touch with me and I'll figure it out, okay? I've got the actual APA handbook and it tells you absolutely everything. But I'm gonna be honest with you, OWL Purdue does a pretty good job too, so if you can't find it, you probably overlooked it. So again, we'll go more in depth on exactly how to do the correct citations, but I do want to show you something. Underneath books, for instance, if I click on this and scroll down, under basic format for books, the way it works is the first little example they have there doesn't really give me an example of how to do it on here. It just shows me an example with all the correct information in the correct place. So it tells me that first thing I'm gonna list is the author's last name, comma, first initial with a period, maybe second initial with a period if I have that information. Then I'm going to put inside parentheses the year it was published, period, after the parentheses. Then I'm gonna put the title of the work italicized, and then I'm gonna put a period after that and list the publisher's name, period after that. And then if I have a DOI, I'll list that. What is a DOI? It's just a list of numbers that you can use as a permalink to access something on the internet. And a DOI is usually issued to online books and online articles. So it's easier to find and easier to put on a reference list than the entire URL. So, now that I've showed you a little bit about citations and how to find this information on finding the correct citation and how to list that on your reference list or in text, I want to move on away from that, okay? I want to show you how do I actually pull up Microsoft Word and format my paper. So I'm going to pull up my Microsoft Word, and if you weren't aware, Microsoft Word is available for all students for free through CR. The way you can access that is you go to www.office.com and sign into the website using your CARC information, your CARC email and your CARC email password. Once you log into office.com and you have put all of your information in, on the left side, you'll see all of the applications from Microsoft Office, such as Word, such as Publisher, PowerPoint, Excel, all of them. And you actually have an opportunity to download it to any of your devices, such as your phone, a personal computer, or a tablet. So, now that I'm signing into my Word, I'm going to open up a brand new blank document. So, how do I format my paper according to APA standards on the Microsoft Word? The first thing I have to do is remember those basic 4 rules. Times New Roman 12-point font. So I'm going to go over here and choose my font, and I'm going to choose Times New Roman, and then over next to it, it has a bunch of numbers. I'm going to pick the number 12. Times New Roman 12-point font. Now I need to worry about my spacing. Remember, double space throughout the entire document. So before I start writing, I'm going to hit double space. I can do this by going over to text alignment. This is usually or actually, it wouldn't be under text alignment. It would be under line spacing. So once I go to line spacing, I'm going to hit 2. And just as a hint, you would also want to remove space after paragraph under line spacing. Not removing the space after paragraph under line spacing is basically going to give you an extra space every time you hit the enter key. And we don't want those extra spaces there. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is check my margins. I can do this by going to Layout, click on the Margins tab. Most Microsoft Word documents are already going to be preset to the 1 inches on all sides. It's called normal underneath their margins. And what you're looking for is top 1 inch, bottom 1 inch, left 1 inch, right 1 inch. Once I click on those margins, I'm going to go in and I'm going to insert my header because I know I need this on every single page too. So the easiest way to insert a header is just to double click up in that top margin. So we're as close to the top of your page on your screen. You're going to double click. And when I double click in there, it's going to pull up a tab to the side that says header, where it's going to automatically open the header. So what I need to do is I need to go back to home and move the alignment of the header to the right. So text alignment, I would select the right alignment. Underneath the header, I need to make sure that under options, I put same across entire document. And make sure my alignment is on the right side. So I want it all the way to the right. Then I'm going to go to Insert, Page Numbers, and I'm going to say all the way to the top right, current position. Then I'm going to double click out of that, and that should automatically set my header to have the page number on the right of every page. So it should automatically update. Every time I go to a new page, it'll automatically increase the page number. So once I've set the header, again, I double click up there, I align it to the right, Make sure that your Times New Roman 12-point font is still set. And then I'm going to go to Insert, Page Number, Current Position, Plain Number, the very first option, okay? I can also do this by going to Insert. I don't have to double click, I can just go to Insert and then put Insert Header and then go from there. Once I am out of the header and I'm back in my main document, remember, I'm going to go Home. I'm going to center my alignment. I'm going to hit so I'm going to hit the Enter key 2, 3, maybe 4 times. I need to bring it down to about a third of the page down. And then I'm going to type my title in bold. So for this, I'm just going to put title. Then I'm going to take bold off, hit Enter again. That's when I'm going to put my name. So I'll put my name, hit Enter again. I'm going to put the institution affiliation. So CARK, S-E-A-R-K, all caps, Enter. I'm going to put the name of the class. For this one, it's going to be caps ENGL space 1313 space 2.02, sorry. Then hit Enter again, and I'm going to put the professor's name, Professor Dixon. Hit Enter again, and I'm going to put the date. It's due November 4th, 2022. Now I have my title page completed. I'm going to hit Enter until I start a new page. So at the top of the next page, I'm going to put abstract in bold. Then I'm going to take the bold off, hit Enter, move that alignment over to the left. And remember, on abstract, we do not indent that paragraph. So then I'm going to write my paragraph. It must be at least 4 sentences long. And once I'm finished writing my abstract, if I have to put keywords, I'm going to put Enter. I'm going to tab over 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to type keywords, italicized, and put a colon after it. And then I'm going to write my keywords. Then I'm going to hit Enter until I get to the next page. Now keep in mind, on my 3rd page, I should be starting the body of my paragraph, but remember we have to put the title of our paper at the very top in bold again. So I'm going to put title, take bold off, hit Enter, and then I'm going to move the alignment over to the left again. This time I'm going to tab every paragraph in this body of my APA paper, because this is just a regular essay, meaning we need to indent every paragraph 1/2 inch. So I hit Tab, and I start my, forgot to take the bold off. Make sure you take that bold off. So now I'm going to start my actual paper. this for every body paragraph. Remember, each paragraph must be 4 sentences. And I'm going to do this all the way until I get to the bottom of page 2. Now, once I'm at the bottom of page 2 of my body paragraph, if you're counting along in the APA paper, this would be at the bottom of page 4. I'm going to center my title for my references page. If I have a references page, I'm going to bold that, center, references, take bold off, hit enter, put it back on the left alignment, and now I'm going to go ahead and type out my references. And I'm going to put just 2 or 3 on here so we can get a good idea of what that's going to look like. Once I've typed out my references, not tabbing on any of them, I'm going to highlight all of the references, not the title references, but the actual reference listings. I'm going to highlight those. I'm going to select them. Then I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to the paragraph settings. So I can click on paragraph options. And what I'm looking for is special. Under special, I'm going to click hanging, because remember I said this is called a hanging indent. Then I'm going to click OK, and it will automatically apply that hanging indent to everything I've selected, which should just be my reference list. So that's how I'm going to format my paper on the actual Microsoft Word. If you have questions, which I'm sure many of you will, please contact me through email, call me during office hours. My phone number and email is listed underneath contact info in your Moodle. So please don't start drowning before you ask for help. As soon as you feel yourself losing your footing, reach out and we can go ahead and get those things corrected immediately. I'm aware that some of this may not be showing up very good for you on your computer screen. But keep in mind that everything that I did today, you should be able to follow along in Moodle under the Resources tab by clicking on APA Al Purdue, or by pulling up your profile assignment sheet underneath worksheets in Moodle, or by opening your Microsoft Word document and following along in the instructions as I am giving them to you. So hopefully you don't have so many questions because you're completely lost. But if you are, please get in touch with me and let's correct it before it becomes a problem, okay? Have a good day. Bye.